The rescue on Ember Plains. The sky over Ember Plains burned red. The war had left everything in ashes, fields of black dust, broken machines, and the silence of the dead. Fires still crackled in the distance. Smoke covered the sun. It looked like the end of a world. Ethan Voss, a human soldier in heavy armor, moved carefully through the ruins. His boots crunched on shattered glass and bones. His mission was simple: search for survivors. Most days he found nothing. Today would be different. He heard a faint sound like a breath, a whimper. He raised his weapon and scanned the area. Near a broken cargo truck, something moved. Ethan stepped closer, heart steady, eyes sharp. There, under the wreckage, hidden beneath torn blankets and steel panels, was a small alien girl. Her skin was soft bronze, her hair pure white and tangled. Her eyes, wide, glowing teal, watched him with fear. She couldn't have been more than 10 in human years. "Hey," Ethan said softly, lowering his rifle. "It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't answer. She only pulled the blanket tighter. Ethan crouched down, removed his helmet, and placed it beside him. "You alone?" She nodded once. He reached into his belt pouch and pulled out a protein bar, gently placing it near her. She didn't take it at first, but after a moment she reached out with shaking fingers and grabbed it. Her hands were thin, dirty, scared. "You hungry?" Another small nod. Ethan looked around. No guards, no movement. Just the two of them in a dead zone. He tapped his wristcom. "This is Sergeant Voss. Found one survivor. Female, young, alien. No signs of threat. Requesting evac. Coordinates uploading." The static-filled reply came. "Copy that. Shuttles delayed. Storm overhead. ETA. 4 hours. 4 hours in the open." He sighed and looked back at her. "What's your name?" She didn't answer. "Okay. I'll just call you Star. That all right?" She blinked slowly, then nodded. "Just a little." Ethan used spare panels and parts to build a small shelter around the wreckage. He turned on a portable heater and handed her a water pack. She watched him with quiet eyes, always alert, always nervous. After a while, she spoke. "Why, help me." Ethan paused, surprised. "Because no one else did." She looked down. "Others ran, saw me, left." He frowned. "That's not right." "You're human," she whispered. "They said humans don't care." He chuckled. "Well, they lied." For the first time, the corner of her mouth lifted, a tiny smile. The hours passed. Ethan told her stories. About Earth, about flying, about how the stars looked when you weren't under fire. She listened closely, eyes wide with wonder. Then, near the end of the wait, she surprised him again. "When I grow up, I want to stay with you." Ethan smiled kindly. "That's sweet, Star. But you've got your whole life ahead." She looked serious. "You saved me. I will come with you." He chuckled. "Tell you what, come back when you're older. Then we'll talk." "Promise." He blinked, then nodded. "Sure, promise." The evac shuttle arrived with roaring engines. Medical bots rushed out. Ethan carried her in his arms, wrapped in a blanket. Before they lifted off, she looked at him again. "Don't forget." She said. He smiled. "I won't." But as the shuttle rose and disappeared into the sky and the war moved on, he did. He moved to the next battlefield, to the next mission, to the next planet, to the next year. He never imagined she would remember every word. Time moves differently. For aliens far from Earth, deep in the Valen system, the twin suns bathed the crystal cities in golden light. On the highest cliff above the Capitol Tower stood a young alien woman, her eyes closed, her silver-white hair dancing in the wind. She wasn't a child anymore. Not the scared little girl hiding under rubble. Not the silent orphan who once clung to a soldier's arm. Her name was Auralis now, full name earned through age, right, and survival. But the human who had saved her? had called her star, and she still remembered. It had been 9 Earth years since the war on Ember Plains, only 3 cycles on her world. Valari matured faster than humans, emotionally, mentally, and physically. By her people's tradition, she was now of age, capable of choosing her own path, her own mate, her own destiny, and Oralis had made her choice long ago. The moment Ethan Voss said, "Come back when you're older," something ancient had been set in motion, a promise, a bond. She never forgot his voice. Not during her combat training, not through her political education, not even when young warriors tried to win her heart in courtship duels. Her heart had already chosen. One morning, during a private meditation, the mark of recall appeared on her wrist, a glowing ring that Valari believed only appeared when fate called someone home. It pulsed softly, warm and sheer. Her elders took notice. "You have chosen," said High, Mother Valtrin. "You intend to honor the old custom?" Oralis bowed her head. "I do." "You are certain the human still lives?" "Yes, I've followed his record. He retired to a civilian colony in the Outer Ring." The elders looked, among themselves. "Then by law you may return to the one who first marked your spirit." It was not just a visit, not a wish. It was a cultural vow among her people, rare, sacred, and powerful. When a Valari was rescued during life-threatening moments in youth, and when that rescuer left a lasting emotional bond, a memory seal was formed. Few ever returned to fulfill it. But Oralis would. As she prepared her journey, others warned her. He was only being kind. Humans joke. They don't understand our ways. He may have forgotten. He may reject the bond. To all of them she gave the same answer. "Then I will stand before him as I am now. If he no longer wants me, I will still honor what was spoken." The day she left Velan Prime, her ship was silent. No guards, no banners, no gifts. Just a girl who had once looked up at a stranger in a broken world and saw the light in his voice. Now she flew across the stars, stronger, faster, older, but still, carrying the same memory like a stone in her chest. Back on Earth's outer colony, Ethan Voss adjusted the wiring on a broken solar array. He was older now, mid-30s, a scar along his cheek, his armor long packed away. He lived quietly. He fixed machines, drank black coffee, told himself the war was behind him. Some nights he'd remember the girl with the silver hair, just a flicker of a moment, her wide eyes, that tiny smile. He never thought she'd still remember. He never thought she'd actually come back. But above him, through the high clouds, a ship entered the atmosphere. No flag, no call sign. Just a single symbol marked on its hull, a glowing star-shaped crest, the kind only worn by bonded returners of the Valari. The girl was coming, no longer a child, no longer hiding, and Ethan Voss had no idea that the promise he made in the ashes was about to land right at his door. She found him again. The colony of Orion's Rest was quiet that morning. The air was cool, the sky bright. Birds flew between steel towers and dusty roads. Ships came and went like routine. Just another normal day at the edge of the galaxy. Ethan Voss wiped the grease from his hands and stepped out of the repair bay, stretching his back. He'd just fixed the solar regulator for a farming unit. Simple work, quiet life, just how he liked it. He poured himself a cup of bitter coffee and leaned against the wall. Then a shadow fell across the ground. He looked up. A sleek silver ship had landed just outside the colony gates. Its design was alien, smooth like flowing water, glowing at the edges. Ethan frowned. Not military, not cargo, something rare. The ramp lowered slowly, and a figure stepped out. She was tall, elegant, strong. Her skin shimmered bronze gold under the sun. Her silver-white hair flowed down her back in thick braids. Armor hugged her body, marked with glowing blue lines. Her boots hit the ground with perfect balance, grace in every step, and her eyes, teal, glowing, familiar, too familiar. Ethan's hand tightened around his mug. She stopped just a few feet away and tilted her head. You don't remember me? He blinked. I do. I just wasn't expecting you. Her voice was calm, but full of emotion. You told me to come back when I was older. He chuckled nervously. I didn't think you'd take that literally. She raised an eyebrow. My people always take words seriously, especially promises. Ethan set the mug down slowly. Star? She nodded once. I go by Oralis now, but yes, I was your star. He stared for a long moment. He didn't know what to say. The little girl he'd rescued was gone. In her place stood a warrior. She wasn't scared anymore. She wasn't hiding. She had grown into someone powerful, someone beautiful, someone who had come for him. I never forgot, she said quietly. I thought, he paused, rubbing the back of his neck. I thought I'd never see you again. You saved my life, Ethan. I only lived because of you. My elders taught me what that meant, and I remembered your words. Ethan gave a weak smile. It was a joke, Oralis. A way to comfort a scared kid. To you, maybe. To me? She took a step closer, her voice soft now. It was a vow. Silence stretched between them. The colony workers nearby watched in curiosity. None of them dared approach. They knew Ethan had a past, but no one knew this part. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. So why now? Why come back after all this time? Because I'm of age now, she said. By my people's law I can choose, and I've already chosen. He looked down. Oralis, I'm just a mechanic now. I'm not a hero, I'm not special. You were the day you didn't walk past a dying girl, she replied. That's all the special I need. Ethan stepped back slightly. You don't owe me anything. She smiled gently. I didn't come because I owe you. I came because I meant what I said, and I needed to know if you ever meant what you said. He met her eyes. She wasn't begging. She wasn't demanding. She had simply returned for the truth. Ethan exhaled. You've changed. So have you. He looked at her again. Really looked. This was no child anymore. This was a woman who had crossed galaxies to stand in front of him, with her pride, her culture, and her feelings unshaken. He nodded slowly. All right then, let's talk. She smiled, the same small smile he remembered from long ago. They walked together into the colony's courtyard, side by side. The others stepped aside as they passed. One man whispered, Is that an alien royal? Another said, No, she's here for him. And above them the wind carried soft dust across the ground, just like it had all those years ago on Ember Plains. A promise, written in blood. The small cafe at the edge of Orion's Rest wasn't built for royal visits. It had creaky metal chairs, a cracked window, and a dusty old counter. But for Oralis it didn't matter. She wasn't here for luxury. She was here for truth. She sat across from Ethan Voss, sipping from a steaming cup of tea. Her armored jacket was draped over the chair, her posture straight, but not tense. She had waited years for this moment. Ethan, on the other hand, looked like he had been hit by a starship. So, he said slowly, you're telling me that what I said, come back when you're older, was some kind of marriage proposal? Oralis didn't blink. Yes. He stared at her. She added calmly, in Valari tradition, if a bond word is spoken during rescue, and if both parties survive, it becomes sacred. It binds futures together, especially if one is of age and the other is still growing. Ethan rubbed his face. But I didn't mean it, I was just being nice. You weren't wrong to say it, she said softly. You gave a scared girl hope. You gave her a reason to live. And because of that, I followed the right of return. Ethan leaned back in his chair. And what happens if I say no? Her face didn't change. Nothing. You're free, but you must say it before a Valari witness and speak a formal blood release. Blood release? She nodded. A vow that severs the bond. It is painful and public for both. Ethan's jaw tightened. What happens if I don't release you, but don't accept the bond either? Oralis tilted her head. Then you leave me in limbo. It is the worst fate. I would remain bound and you would remain watched. Watched by who? She didn't answer. But Ethan knew. Her people. He stood up and paced. The little cafe felt too small now. So let me get this straight, he said. You came all this way, cross systems, because of something I said years ago, something I barely remember. But for you it was real? Oralis stood as well. Yes. He looked into her eyes, those same glowing teal eyes he had seen long ago under burning skies. But why? Why hold on to it all this time? Her answer came quietly. Because when everyone else ran from me, you stayed. You didn't treat me like an alien. You treated me like someone worth saving. The cafe door opened. An older Valari man in deep blue robes entered. His eyes scanned the room, then landed on Oralis. He bowed slightly. I am Witness Carvin, he said to Ethan. If you choose to reject the bond, I will guide the ceremony. Ethan looked between them both. You had this ready? Oralis nodded. I had to. It would be unfair to show up unprepared. Carvin spoke again. We can do it here now. Just a small cut on the hand. 1 drop of blood on this stone. He held out a black oval crystal, and the words spoken clearly. I break the bond, and I walk alone. Ethan stared at the stone. 1 drop, 1 sentence, and it would all be over. No more connection, no more pressure, no more bond. But in that moment, he remembered something. A little girl under a broken transport, her hands shaking as she reached for a protein bar. The way she smiled at him, small, but full of hope. And her tiny voice whispering, don't forget. He hadn't forgotten. Not really. He had just buried it. He looked up at Oralis. You're not the same girl I saved. No, she said, but I never stopped being her either. He looked down at the stone again, then slowly he stepped back. I'm not saying yes yet, he said carefully. But I'm not breaking anything either. Carvin's eyes narrowed. You delay your answer. That is dangerous. Ethan shrugged. Then let it be dangerous. Oralis smiled. It wasn't victory. It was relief. Because now she knew. The bond still had a chance. Outside, the suns of Orion's Rest began to set. 2 shadows walked side by side from the cafe. 1 human, 1 alien. A promise not yet fulfilled. But also, not yet broken. And far above, on a distant Valari cruiser, a message was sent to the elders. The human has not rejected her. Prepare the test. She doesn't want his pity. The sky over Orion's Rest turned deep orange as evening settled in. The twin moons were rising, casting silver light across the sand-covered rooftops. In the distance, colony lights blinked one by one like sleepy eyes, closing for the night. Ethan Voss sat on the edge of a loading dock, legs dangling over the side, arms resting on his knees. His mind was racing, but his body stayed still. Behind him, quiet footsteps approached, measured, calm, familiar. Oralis. She didn't speak right away. She sat beside him, her armor creaking softly as she moved. For a while, they both stared at the open desert in silence. I didn't expect you to hesitate, she said gently. Ethan gave a slow sigh. I'm not hesitating. I'm thinking. Oralis turned to him. You don't have to choose me just because of tradition. He blinked. Isn't that why you came? For the tradition? She shook her head slowly. No, I came because of you. He looked at her now. Really looked. At the strength in her shoulders, the steady fire in her eyes, and the quiet pain behind her voice. You followed a bond across half the galaxy, he said. That sounds like duty to me. She turned away. If it was just duty, I wouldn't be afraid. Ethan frowned. Afraid of what? She took a deep breath. Afraid that you'll say yes, because you feel sorry for me. Ethan stared at her. She stood up and stepped a few paces away, facing the wind. You think I came here because I need your protection? She said. I command soldiers now. I walk unarmed into rooms full of powerful men and make them listen. I don't need a savior. Ethan stood up slowly. Then why come back? Because when I was small and broken, you gave me something no one else did. She turned back to him, voice steady. Kindness. The wind picked up, lifting strands of her silver-white hair. I remembered every word she said. Not because I was weak, but because it was real. You mattered. Still do. Ethan swallowed hard. And what if I'm not that man anymore? Then I want to meet the man you are now, she said, stepping closer. Not as a soldier. Not as a symbol, just as you. He lowered his head. Oralis, I've seen too much. Done too much. I'm not good at this. Neither am I, she admitted. But I didn't come expecting perfection. I came hoping for honesty. She paused, then added softly, if you don't care for me, if your feelings aren't real, I'll leave. But don't say yes out of guilt. And don't say no out of fear. Ethan looked up. I don't pity you, he said quietly. I never did. Then what do you feel? He walked toward her. I feel confused. I feel like the past just landed on my doorstep, and it's stronger and smarter and more beautiful than I ever expected. She blinked at the word, beautiful, but didn't interrupt. Ethan continued. You're not a kid anymore, you're a force of nature. A faint smile appeared on her lips. Is that your way of saying I scare you? A little, he admitted. But I think I like it. They both laughed softly. Then she stepped closer, so close he could feel the warmth of her skin. Then let's take the next step, she said. He raised an eyebrow. What next step? The test of the bond. He groaned. Why does this sound like it involves more pain? She grinned. Not pain, just truth. Behind them, the Valari ship above the colony blinked a soft green light. The council had approved the next phase. Back on the dock, Ethan and Oralis stood beneath the moons. I don't want your pity, she said again, her voice barely a whisper. You won't get it, he replied. But you might get something better. Her eyes narrowed with curiosity. What's that? He smiled faintly. Me. Just me. And for the first time since she'd landed, her shoulders relaxed. The soldier in her faded, and the girl who once sat in silence under wreckage smiled again. The test of the bond the next morning came with no warning, just a single chime on Ethan's wristband and a message. The council accepts. The bond test begins at first light, come willing, or not at all. Ethan Voss stood outside the colony gates, staring up at the hovering Valari ship. It floated silently, like a giant silver wing frozen in the sky. No engines roared, no weapons flashed, but its presence was heavier than a warship. Beside him, Oralis adjusted her ceremonial sash. She wore armor, but not for battle. This was the armor of truth. Her shoulders were squared, her face calm, but Ethan could feel the tension in her. This test, he asked, does it involve sharp objects? She almost smiled. Only sharp questions. He gave a weak laugh. Great. I was hoping for a sword fight. I'm better with knives than emotions. She looked at him gently. Today, your honesty is your weapon. Inside the ship, the air was thick and silent. 3 elder Valari stood in a triangle around a glowing platform. Each wore robes of different colors, sky blue for truth, silver for memory, black for judgment. In the center was a crystal orb. Ethan stepped forward, palms sweating. Oralis followed but stopped at the circle's edge. This is your path alone, she said. He gave her a look. Thanks for the heads up. One of the elders raised his hand. Ethan Voss, do you understand the nature of this trial? No, he said honestly. Another elder nodded. Good. Then you are ready. They gestured to the orb. Place your hand here. Speak nothing unless asked. If your bond is real, the orb will show your heart. If it is false, it will break. So will the bond. Ethan stared at the orb. It pulsed faintly, like it was alive. He took a deep breath and placed his hand on it. Instantly, he was somewhere else. Not a room. Not a ship. A memory. He stood on Ember Plains again, the sky burning above him. He saw her, the child version of Oralis, crouched under the wreckage. He watched himself bend down, offer food, smile, promise. But then, the scene shifted. He saw moments from his life he never wanted to see. His failures, the battles he walked away from, the people he couldn't save. And then he heard a voice. Do you regret saving her? He didn't hesitate. No. Do you love her? He swallowed. I don't know. Do you want to? That hit him harder. He thought of her now, standing outside the circle, proud, patient, brave. He closed his eyes. Yes. The orb pulsed bright gold. The memory faded. He stood back in the room, sweating. The elder said nothing at first. Then the orb floated into the air and split open, not in destruction, but in light. Inside, a small flame burned, hovering just above Ethan's chest. The flame drifted to Oralis. It sank into the mark on her wrist, and the circle glowed bright blue. It is done, one elder said. The bond is true, said another. The choice now belongs to both, said the third. Ethan stepped back, breathing hard. Oralis came to him, her voice quiet. You didn't have to say yes. He looked at her, eyes steady. I didn't say yes, I said I want to. Her smile was slow, deep. Then so do I. Back on the colony, people gathered to watch them return. No parades, no cheers. Just two people, walking side by side. Not soldier and alien, not rescuer and rescued. Just two souls who remembered something the rest of the galaxy forgot. That sometimes, bonds don't begin with romance. They begin with kindness. A promise fulfilled beneath the stars. The stars above Orion's rest were brighter than usual, as if the universe itself had paused to listen. The colony was quiet now. Even the wind had gone still. But on the roof of Ethan's small repair shop, two figures stood together, Ethan Voss and Oralis, looking up at the sky that once separated them. Ethan leaned against the railing, a warm drink in hand. His jacket was dusty, his boots worn, but his expression was soft, calm, like something inside him had finally stopped running. Beside him, Oralis rested her hands on the edge of the railing. Her ceremonial sash was gone, her armor replaced with a long flowing cloak. Her silver-white hair danced in the cool breeze. She didn't speak at first. Neither did he. They just stood in silence, the kind that only exists between two people who've already said everything that mattered. I always wondered, Ethan said at last, what became of that little girl I met on Ember Plains. Oralis smiled gently. She never stopped thinking about the human who saved her. He turned to her. What if I told you I didn't save you? She looked at him, confused. Ethan continued. What if I told you you saved me? Oralis tilted her head. From what? From myself. From war. From forgetting how to care. She looked down, then back up, her eyes brighter than the stars above. Then we saved each other. A low hum sounded above them. A single Valari ship floated in orbit, broadcasting a message across both worlds. The bond is witnessed. The test complete. Both parties are free to walk away, or walk together. Ethan smirked. They're really big on announcements, huh? Oralis laughed. My people love ceremony. He looked at her, serious now. So what happens if I ask you to stay? She stepped closer, voice low. Then I stay. No rituals. No guards. No glowing crystals, she smiled. Just me. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded cloth. Inside was a thin chain with a crystal pendant, the same one he had kept from Ember Plains. Burnt, chipped, but never forgotten. I held on to this, he said. Didn't know why. She gently touched the pendant, her fingers brushing his. It's part of our past, she whispered. But we're standing in the present now. He looked at her, not at the soldier, not at the alien, at the woman, the one who had waited, grown, returned. I wasn't ready back then, he said softly. But I am now. Oralis stepped even closer, and for the first time, without fear or uncertainty, she whispered the words from her people's bonding vow. Where you walk, I will follow. Where you fall, I will lift. What you forget, I will carry. And when your name fades, I will still speak it in the stars. Ethan closed his eyes, then replied in the simplest, most human way possible. I'm yours. They stood under the sky, hands linked, hearts steady, as the Valari ship blinked once, then vanished into deep space. No more tests, no more waiting. Just a bond made not of force, or law, or tradition, but of choice. In the days that followed, Ethan and Oralis remained at Orion's Rest. Together they built new systems, trained others, and quietly helped bind two worlds closer than any treaty ever could. People whispered legends about the bond, about the girl who came back, about the human who remembered, but neither of them cared for fame. They had each other, and that was enough. Years later, when the stars asked again if humans and aliens could truly understand one another, the answer echoed softly in the records of both species. He said, "Come back when you're older." She did, and he was waiting.